Right now, educating prison inmates with public money. We're going to take you behind bars in a way that no other network can to find the real story behind the headline. We will talk about the impacts not just on inmates, but on a community and on our state as a whole, from what inmate education can do when it comes to crime and even the dollars and cents that are the bottom line for taxpayers. Also, the politics, the challenges that Governor Cuomo's prison education proposal faces today in Albany, as well as the arguments that may just change some minds. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another special edition of RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Friday evening, February 21st. Well, tonight we revisit an issue we've covered more than a few times here on RFL, and it's one that we as a network and as the people who report for that network have gotten to know quite well. College educations for prison inmates. And it's a subject that on the surface may sound like the ultimate undeserved freebie, but its supporters argue it actually does a whole lot of good for not just the inmates involved, but also for the community as a whole, and also makes financial sense. Now, one of those supporters just happens to be the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, who has recently, and for the first time really, proposed an expansion of prison education programs. We're going to share his rationale with you in just a few minutes, but we want to begin with an explanation of just what these programs are all about, both now and in the future, how they work, and the impact that they can have. And we're going to do that from the perspective of someone who, when he was first exposed to the idea, was one of those cynics who thought it was the ultimate undeserved freebie here. He just happens to be a good friend here and one of our own, Dominic Carter. And it's fair to say, Dom, that when we first mentioned this, you kind of arch the eyebrows a little bit and be like, education for inmates, Sing Sing, maximum security, really?
That's exactly what my initial attitude happened to be. Really? Are we really going to do this? I did wonder, Richard, why in the world would the state pay for an inmate's education, especially in these tough financial times? Then I saw the program Hudson link up close by traveling to Sing Sing prison, and the program literally brought tears to my eyes. It's that successful. It's not a typical classroom, and study habits are certainly in a unique setting, but it's an education that's very much about turning lives around and breaking lifelong cycles of returning to prison.
You see, hope has hands that can reach down and pick you up when you fall. Hope has ears that can hear opportunity knocking when the radio of disappointment is turned up loud. Hope has a voice that yells out, "You're better than this. You can beat this," when the clouds of doubt begin to form overhead. And hope also has a heart that pumps love when you feel lost and alone.
And for the families of the inmates, they have had a lifetime of nothing but heartache and embarrassment.
Life in prison has been sort of an emotional roller coaster. You have your good days and your bad days. You have things that, when they're going for you, things look great, and then when things look down, because you've been here so long, it becomes very difficult to be here. You start seeing the life you missed out on.
You know, his daughter grew up without him, and and now she's a teenager. And
she was 2 years old when I came to prison. She was 7 years old when her mother passed away. So my child had a rough childhood, and it's something that I wish I could be there to help her. And I missed out on that.
My relationship with my dad when I was younger, it wasn't that good.
It's sad. I don't think a child should have to go through that.
Now that I'm getting older, it's like I'm realizing that, I have to develop a better relationship with him. Not necessarily that I have to, but that I should. I guess it was just a matter of age and like growing up and maturing. Like, you can't always have a hatred towards somebody. Because I guess I was mad that he wasn't there when I was younger, but.
I missed out on so far 18 years of her life. And that means her kindergarten graduation, that means her elementary school graduation, her high school graduation. Those are things that I missed out on.
He is doing something for himself, preparing himself for the day of his release. And I mean, the whole family's just happy that, you know, there's something positive coming out of this.
We're proud that, wow, we're proud. Proud that he's made it this far. And that he was the valedictorian. Because he probably felt that he had a lot to prove. And he just did.
Live life, be happy, stay healthy and hopeful, and I'll be home as soon as I can. Take care of you. I love you. To my baby girl, I spent less than 24 hours with you in the last 10 years. Karen Alicia, your forgiveness, your love, and your friendship is heaven to me. Even if you and everybody else can forgive me, I can't forgive myself.
Hey! Oh,
How are you?
so good to see you out here.
But the bottom line, hundreds have graduated with college degrees from the highly successful Hudson Link program, and not one person has returned to prison. We want you to take a look at part of the public service announcement from the group Hudson Link.
Hello, my name is Sean Pica. When I was 16 years old, I got into trouble. I found myself serving an 8 to 24-year sentence. I went into a world that I didn't know existed. One day, an officer came to my cell and said would I consider helping some of the other men learn to read and write. I said, how was I going to do that? He said, Sean, you're the most educated guy around, and I had only made it to the 9th grade. So many of the men I was around were returning to prison shortly after being released, and I thought to myself, was I going to be any different? I remember sitting in my cell as a teenager, thinking, where is my life going? I was serving a 24-year prison sentence, never finished high school. I felt like I had failed at everything. So here was the point when I realized I had a chance to not be such a failure and use what I had been given to help others. It was where my educational journey began. After 16 years in prison, I earned my GED. I got a 2-year, a 4-year, and a graduate degree. I realized when I was released in 2002 after 16 years, the only thing I had was my college education, but it was the only thing I needed. I kept thinking no one in my community was going to be able to forgive or forget that I was in prison for nearly 2 decades. But in fact, people are forgiving, and education does level every playing field. There is transformative power in education. Someone believed in me and said my life was worth living. Today, I'm the executive director of Hudson Link for Higher Education, an organization that provides college education and life skills while in prison, and reentry support after release. In 1998, federal and state funding for college education in prison was stopped. This had a devastating effect on prison morale. Through the support of religious and academic volunteers for Hudson Link, the organization was established. Today, we provide a college education to incarcerated men and women in 4 New York State correctional facilities. 43% of people released from prison return in the first 3 years. At Hudson Link for Higher Education, our first 13 years proved to be a phenomenal success. 0%, not a single student, returned to prison. Please support our goals of forgiveness and educational opportunities for all. Thank you.
And here is a remarkable figure, Richard. In the last couple of years, Hudson Link, this program, highly successful, has been completely funded, as you've pointed out, with private dollars, not one taxpayer dollar. So imagine if the public sector, taxpayer dollars, gets involved with this program. Imagine the good that they can do. I close on this note. To those of you that may say this program or such programs is a waste of taxpayer money, my response to you is real simple, because I came into this exactly the same way. My response is go to Sing Sing prison, get yourself on a list, go to the graduation, and take a look for yourself.
And I've been to a couple of those like yourself, Dominic, and it's a moving experience. But as Dominic said, here is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Hudson Link, okay, and there's some programs similar to it in other parts of this country. They are completely private funded. What we're talking about tonight is what the governor suggested, which also is taking place in other parts of this country, and that is taxpayer dollars, albeit in a limited scope, but still taxpayer dollars going to educate inmates. Now, there's a big debate going on in Albany right now in both the Assembly and Senate if this is good policy or not. Well, tonight, Sean Pico, who you just saw in that film, he will be joining us on set. We'll also be joined here by an assemblyman who's got many questions about this program, and we'll be joined by the Commissioner of Corrections in New York State. He'll be joining us out of our state's capital as well. All that and much more when we come back after this break.